folks, you are more than welcome to the Coffee at 11 show on this beautiful spring morning here in lockdown heaven. And I'd love you to meet my friend for many years and special guest on the show this morning, Grainne Adams. Grainne, please say hi and cheers us with your mug.
Good morning, everybody.
Happy days. Let me tell you, folks, before I bring Grainne in to talk to us in her own words, let me just tell you some of the nice stuff that she knows about herself, unprompted, mind. Name Grainne Adams, business name Grainne Adams, homeopath. What does your business do? I love this. I treat whatever ails you. Basically, people come into me usually when they are unwell and often when they have exhausted other avenues to find help. I take their case, which involves getting a picture of how they are out of balance on a mental, emotional and or physical level. Then I prescribe homeopathic remedies with the aim of bringing them back into balance. How long established? I've been practicing full-time since 2003. Wow. How many employees? In the past couple of years, I have another homeopath working for me. Originally, Grainne trained as a Montessori teacher and spent 20 years doing this, 14 of which were in Australia. And in a wonderful school, she became the principal at that school at the ripe young age of 29 and came back to Ireland in 1998, became an independent mother, moved to Carlow having bought the house that Jack built and started in the job from hell. Wow, that's going to be interesting. She retrained as a homeopath and set up in Paradise in 2003. Today, she has two very busy clinics here in Carlow, there in Carlow, and in Dublin, and she also teaches in the Irish School of Homeopathy in Dublin. And something nobody knows about Grainne until now, the sea calms my soul. I've often fallen asleep in an open boat in huge swells and driving rain. Fabulous. Fabulous. Grainne Adams, great pleasure to see you, and it's looking forward to this chat. And so in your own words, take us through the 30 years up until, really we want to get to the part where your business kicks off. So take us there. Thanks.
Okay. Well, I did have a very, in the Montessori world, quite a prestigious career in Australia, and came back to Ireland, became an independent mother, bought the house that Jack built, moved to Carlow for a job. And it was the job from hell. And a certain Carol Gibney introduced me to the idea of writing a letter to the universe, you know, what you want. So I did. I was miserably unhappy in my job, but I had just taken on a mortgage and I had 3 sons, so I felt I didn't have too much choice. So I wrote to the universe, and I didn't describe exactly what job I wanted, but I described what I wanted it to be like, which is the job I have now. So I described what I wanted it to be like, but what I didn't do, and I later learned, is I didn't say I'd like the transition to be easy. So it wasn't easy. So I never thought I would. I had started to train in homeopathy because I really liked it and was interested in it, and but I never really saw a path to leaving the security of teaching and that wage to branch out on my own, you know, to start a practice. But I'd asked the universe, so the universe did it for me. So one day when my dreadful boss had left my classroom, I sent a text about her to her by mistake. And my transition out of teaching was very swift after that. Thanks, universe. So in the space of about maybe 5 years, I went from being principal of quite a big school in Sydney. My office overlooked the Harbour Bridge and the Sydney Opera House. I went from there to the Dole office in Carlow with an eye that was so swollen from conjunctivitis, it looked like I'd been beaten up. And I remember sitting there thinking, how did this become my life? How did this happen to me?
And
anyhow,
Can I ask, did you blame a certain Carol Gibney for this bloody letter to the universe?
No, I was just in the throes of it, really. But anyhow, so I set up in practice literally the day after I qualified as a homeopath, because necessity dictated that I would. And that would have been in June 2003. And then, you know, I didn't have any clients, but I was available for work, basically. And I gave a few little talks, and I put an ad in the local paper, and I got 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people. And then in the September, it was World Homeopathy Day. Bet you've all heard about that and celebrated. World Homeopathy Day, and I was asked to coordinate this event in Carlow for all the homeopaths, being just me in Carlow. So I pushed myself right out of my comfort zone, and I rang the local newspaper, The Nationalist, and I spoke to the editor, and I took a deep breath and I said, would you like to, it's World Homeopathy Day, and I was wondering if you would like to run an article on homeopathy. And he said, no, thanks. And I said, okay. And I got off the phone. I had my whole, the amount of preparation that went into that phone call was a lot, and it was over in seconds flat. So anyhow, that was fine. And he then rang me back later in the afternoon. And he said he had a great idea. He would come out to me because he had a few health problems, and I could take his case and prescribe for him. And he would write a very honest account of his experience, and I could put in my little article about homeopathy. And every ounce of my being wants to say, I know you're grand, because it meant that I'd be totally exposed. And anyhow, so I didn't say that. I said, oh, great, I'd love to do that. So he was coming out the next day. I just happened to have a free full day because there's no clients. So he came out the next day, and I took his case. And he then sent a photographer out to take a photo. And at that time, the Nationalist wasn't, the small tabloid size. It was, the full-size newspaper. And my face, my photo was half of one of those full pages. It was bigger than my head actually is. Because I kind of had said to myself, sure, nobody will know it's me anyway. If he writes a terrible thing, they won't know it's me. But anyway, they did. Yeah, they knew it was me by the end of it. So I took his case, and the truth is, if I had to prescribe for him there and then on the spot, I knew what I would give him, but he got more attention to hit that one case than any other case I've ever taken. I think I spent about 12 hours to come to the conclusion that I had come to while I was with him. And I gave him his remedies. And normally when somebody comes to a homeopath, they would take the remedies for a month, and then you would check in with them. But World Homeopathy Day was in 3 weeks' time. So, and I didn't think at the time to say, would I be able to see what you're going to write? So I just let it be whatever it was going to be. And I didn't sleep the night before the newspaper was coming out. And I was the first person to say they've never had anybody as enthusiastic to get the paper, the Nationalist newspaper. And I came home and scanned, like I've never read anything as fast, and got to the point where he said, he was saying how skeptical he was, but I could see this one figure in it, 70%. And in the space of 3 weeks, he felt 70% better than he had. And I was like, oh, thanks, universe.
I love it. Going to come in there. We're going to give you the coffee at 11 round of applause for that. For that really intriguing introduction to who you are. And ladies and gentlemen, you're meeting the real Grainne Adams here. This is what it was like growing up, right? it was laugh after laugh after laugh, right? Very serious lady, but has a way of just turning it on its head and making it fun. Grainne, that's fabulous. We all felt for you, I think, that moment when he said, sure, you can treat me and I'll write about it. You know?
It's terrifying.
Completely terrified and full exposure, and then the head bigger than your own in the newspaper. You know? Only you, dare I say it. Okay, listen, so we're now in business, right? So whistle stop tour from that moment through to COVID. Bring us right up to COVID.
So from that one article, I got by the Friday of that week, I got 20 new clients. And that really that was enough for me to be able to, you know, pay the bills. Like, just not get out of the hole I was in, but pay the bills. But it was a start. And what I realized over the years after that is, like, people up to maybe 5-6 years later would come having made an appointment and say, I cut that article out and I've been meaning for years to make that appointment. You know, that they like, it's probably one of the big things, maybe not as much today with all the social media avenues, but it's one of the big things then in 2003, that sort of time. That's how people got their news. But it was a well-read paper anyway. And so that kind of started it. And then really for a few years after that, maybe the next 4 or 5 years, I at least had that core number, not the same people obviously, but then I realized that I could, you know, if I did good work with one person, the big plus that I see in Ireland is that people talk. And people are very helpful. So they want to help each other. So if somebody, you know, is saying, I'm really suffering with sinus today, I get phone calls all the time saying I was in the gym and such a body told me that you cured their sinus, or such a body told me that you dealt with their whatever, you know. And the reason you kind of know that they're talking is that every so often you know, I get phone calls going, is this the hay fever clinic? Because they're all talking about hay fever, you know. So and it kind of slowly, steadily built from there, you know. Word of mouth at a certain point seemed to take off. And then it was around the time of the crash, just that same year, whatever year that was, I had been reading more stuff, but anyway, I read about having an attitude of gratitude, you know, and to do a gratitude, this experiment I read about, do an experiment on gratitude and welcoming in what you want. So I was very cagey about, like, I'd really learned the lesson of be careful what you ask for, because, you know, you have to put in the parameters. I don't want the stress of losing my job or whatever. But what I did know I definitely wanted was I wanted more clients in my practice. So I did an experiment for 31 days in May. Every morning that I woke up, I said, thank you for the clients who are coming to me today, and thank you for how I can help them. And at the end of the day, I said, thank you for the clients who came today, and thank you for how I helped them. And that's all I did. And I was afraid to say anything else in case I invited more chaos into my life. And in that month of May, I got 36 new clients for no good reason. I didn't advertise, I didn't do any talks, I didn't do anything different except every morning and every evening, that's what I did. I welcomed it in, and it came, and the truth is that at the end of the month I couldn't have kept going at that rate because I couldn't physically have worked with more, but I was afraid to say anything then. I was thinking I'm all powerful. I don't know, I can't say anything. If I say no more, they'll all go away. But just...
I love it. Come here. Let me come in. Let me come in here just for a second. Love it, love it, love it. I was watching the heads nodding up and down. Eamonn Smith in particular. Delighted. He's hearing all the right stuff here. Gratitude and putting it out there in the universe. And I love the fact that based on your earlier interaction with a certain Carol Gibney, that you're afraid to, you put the parameter down and make sure it's watertight before I put it out there.
Yeah.
But the fact that it worked, I'm delighted for you. Bring us to you. When did you open the Dublin clinic? And bring us up to COVID.
I have 3 sons who are sailors, and they live in a landlocked county. So I was kind of looking towards the future. They were coming to the end of school, end of college, and thinking, I'm going to end up here in Carlow by myself. Do I want to, live my old age in Carlow? So I decided that I would set up a practice in Dublin so that I could transition to Dublin over time. And so I did that, and I did advertise that practice because I had no network there work-wise, for getting clients. I did advertise that practice. And I set it up, and it just took off, and now I'm traipsing up and down to Dublin for this practice, and my son left college and decided to open a gym in Carlow down the road, so I won't be going anywhere anytime soon. So now I have 2 practices.
I love it. I love it. You're not very good at this universal stuff, are you? If you don't mind me saying it, putting it out there.
Well, this is what I've decided, and this is what has worked for me. I've decided in my life to trust the flow, that wherever I'm meant to be, I'll be, and whatever's meant to happen will happen. And if that's what was meant to happen, then I find the best in that. Spending my entire life getting ready for lockdown and COVID. I think my entire life has been, okay, this is what it is.
I love it. Okay, Grainne, we have to, at this moment in time, bring in the fact that despite one son setting up a gym in Carlow when they were all sailing back in the day, you have one son who's an Olympian. Talk to us about it.
So my youngest son, Finn, the 3 of them sail, but he obviously absorbed it from before he could ever sail, and he that's his career. He is a professional sailor. In 2016 he represented Ireland in the Olympics, and he was all set. We were all set to go to Italy Easter weekend for the qualifier for him for Japan. So that has been postponed, or we'll see what happens. But the Olympics have been postponed, so that's taken the pressure off him. So yeah, that's my baby boy.
I think we must come in here and give you and Finn a round of applause. Go Team Ireland.
Yeah.
All right, Grainne. Listen, thank you for that, Grainne. Okay, so we're in COVID, right? So as I understand it from chatting to you, at first glance it looked like business might fall off a cliff because it's quite a hands-on, dare I say it, industry, if I'm not mistaken. So how have you coped with COVID?
Okay, so because of the practice in Dublin, and I'm only there in certain days, if people can't make their appointment over the last couple of years, I've given them the option of doing a video or a phone consultation, and I post the remedies to them. So I have been doing that a little bit anyway. And I think I said this to you, Colm, when I was talking to you, that the worst part of my job for me is at 8 o'clock every morning, I send out reminder texts for people for the next day. Then I go up and have a shower, and I come back down and my diary explodes, and all the texts start coming back in saying, can I change that to 10, or can I you know, push it out a week, or can I come on a different day? And then, you know, I learned very quickly to write in my diary in pencil. But anyway, so I rub out, I write in, you know, and I do that. So the idea, I knew I could offer people phone consultations or video consultations, but the idea of my diary doing a dance every day, you know, and at first I thought, I'll say I'm available to do this if you'd like. And then I decided I didn't want to do that, because I didn't want to have to sit and wait, listen, or wait for all the responses. Do you know what I mean? And the changes of appointments. So what I did was I just sent everybody a text saying, we're in lockdown, your appointment will be online tomorrow, and I'll be calling you at 10 a.m. And then I'll post on the remedies. And to date, not one person has changed or cancelled their appointment.
You're kidding me. You're kidding me.
My diary is easier because nobody's going, and we're all delighted. Not one person. A few people have sent, like if I've rearranged the appointment, like today, you know, I rearranged appointments to be able to do this, and a few people text back and said, I'll just check my diary and get back to you, and then immediately sent a text saying, oh yeah, no, I'm not going anywhere, it's fine. Because nobody's going anywhere, the diary is really easy. But so because of what I do, I decided with homeopathy plays a great role in supporting a person's immune system. So I decided that I would, like I knew what I wanted to give to my family to protect them at this time. So I just multiplied that by whatever 150 people that I treat, and I made it up for everybody and gave them extra so that they could give it to their elderly parents, to their, you know, and I decided that was going to be my gift to COVID, or, you know, my gift to help against COVID. And that has made an enormous difference, I think, that like it isn't something that I told people, or, but I, you know, that they feel like they could take something that was boosting their immune system, and that they, particularly people with elderly parents, were really happy. And so I think it's kind of created maybe a stronger bond, I suppose, with my clients, and I have gotten other clients from that, from you know, having done that, you know.
It's amazing, and yet it's not amazing. We were talking about Tommy O'Brien, my dad and Carol's dad, of course, and somebody that you grew up knowing. But, you know, Tommy, one of the best salesmen ever, but he always said, you know, stop selling, start serving. Stop selling, start serving. And that's what you're doing, Grainne. You know, you didn't go there saying, great, we're in COVID, I can sell a whole load of remedies to people and their families. You went out and gave it to them, right? And that's just beautiful. It's exactly the right thing to do, okay? And the fact that there'll be payoff into the future is irrelevant. You did it for all the right reasons, all the right reasons. So come here, we applaud you one more time. What I'm hearing is that COVID has been a very strange blessing for you, and that going forward you might do more and more consultations online. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you can't beat sitting and getting an impression of somebody, you know, that you're sitting with, you know, that there is something about, there's, for some people it would work quite well. For others, like I treat a lot of children, and children come in here to this room and there are lots of toys and they play and they chat and they're very relaxed. So I get a very good sense of them, where that doesn't happen, you know, in this situation. So there are pros and cons, but yeah, I think for a lot of people, they will be quite happy to continue online. Yeah.
Delighted for you, Grainne. It's been a resounding success, and I think the universe has planted you firmly where it needs you. And the fact that you're open to that, happy days, congrats, well done. Listen, we're going to go to Q&A from the floor. Before we do, one tip, what one tip would you give us all, your nearest and dearest? You're going to get through COVID best by doing blah. What's blah for you?
Okay, well, I feel this has served me in my life. And I've used it quite a bit. I used it before I came on this show. I use it, and I've used it lots of times in during this lockdown time. But I try to pay very close attention to the stories I'm telling myself in my head. Whenever I feel kind of anxious about something or worried about something, I try to work out what I'm telling myself about it and then question it, whether it's true or not. And most of the time it's not. It's just being fearful of something that could happen. And to me, that in whatever way works for each of one of us, keeping yourself as best you can and being kind to yourself, but keeping yourself in the present moment, I think is the only way to get through your whole life, really. You know, if you have those tools. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what works for me, and I think it's helpful, you know.
Grainne, it makes perfect sense. Thank you for that. It's really interesting. We've been doing this for a number of weeks now, and invariably when we get to this point, invariably the tips are all around a particular theme, which is basically looking after yourself first. Because if you look after yourself first, you're then at the service of the universe to look after others around you. So thank you for that. And once again, well done. Okay, who's got their first question for Grainne? Eamonn Smith.
Thanks, Colm. Grainne, thanks so much. I'm scribbling away like mad here. Like, I even put it in the comments. You had me at flow. That's one of my magic words. And what you were saying about kind of thanking the universe in advance, your 31 days in May thing, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. So given that I totally get where you are, and thank you for sharing, could you maybe share, and maybe in relation to what you were saying, but you know, when you pay attention to stories in your head and what's going on, maybe share something that you do to kind of ground you, or one of your kind of techniques for keeping well, keeping present, keeping here, manifesting, that sort of thing. Could you share a tip that works for you?
I think for me that is being kind of conscious. I suppose I do lots of things. One of the things work-wise that I try to do is I try at the end of the day to be finished with my day. I don't work well in chaos, so I try to make sure I'm finished with all of those. When I put them back in the filing cabinet, they stay there till next month. And what I meant by that is that before I put somebody's file away, I make sure I've done everything I need to do for that person. And then I presume they're okay unless they contact me before their next appointment. So I try to be clean in those sorts of things with my work. But as far as at the end of my working day, I do have a kind of a ritual of turning off the lights and saying thank you and leaving that space and leaving it there and go into the house. But the things that for me that really ground me are my garden. I love being out in the garden. I get great joy out of, and I've discovered aching muscles in places that I didn't even know I had muscles in this COVID lockdown, because I've done so much work in the garden, and kind of rediscovered the joy of it because I'd been quite busy before. So yeah, I do yoga. I think just getting out. I think when you work a lot in your head, with your head and with other people, it's really nice to find, for me, to find solitude in it, just being on my own, having time to kind of get back to myself.
I love it. I love it. I love it, Grainne. Thank you for that. Eamonn, great question.
Thanks,
it's one of Eamonn's go-to questions, but it's a great question because everybody's got a slightly different take on it. So thanks, Eamonn. Thank you, Grainne. I'm going to pass over to Princess Shelley, who'll take the next section.
Hey, Grainne. Hey, everyone in the cafe. Thank you so much, Grainne. Do you know what I loved today was the collective gasp everybody did in the cafe. Everybody sat back with like their eyes doubled when you mentioned that text message that you inadvertently sent to this horrible boss. And everybody kind of hands went over mouths. I absolutely loved it. I really did. It's happened to the best of us, I'm sure, but not quite as spectacular as that was. So yeah, I loved it. I did see in the cafe that Sarah wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, I loved your attitude to gratitude section. It was really nice. What I wanted to add was similar to what Eamonn asked, basically how you ground yourself and how you get your head out of the situation we're in, basically, at this time. What do you do that has helped you to basically distance yourself from everything that's going on?
In my office, I have a waiting room outside, and I normally have the radio on out there, you know, to, I suppose, muffle the sounds a bit. And the first week I was working here on my own and the radio was on, and I would be a person, I like listening to the radio, but I found myself in the first week working faster, as if somebody was chasing me. I was getting really stressed in myself, and I was knocking things, and I just had to stop and kind of like, what is going on? And what I realized was I was just hearing too much. And I may have become the opposite now, my head in the sand a bit, but I just don't listen. I was getting more and more stressed by it, so I stopped. And I, you know, not even every day listen to a little bit of the news.
I think that's really good advice, Grainne, isn't it, Sarah?
Yeah, very good advice, yeah.
Limit our exposure to those kind of things. Important to have a...
That's it, but I don't.
But yeah, to limit that exposure. Thanks for that, Grainne, and great question.
Thanks very much, Grainne.
Eamonn has popped into the chat box there, everybody, the links to Grainne's Facebook page and her website, so do access her content there. And I'm delighted to hand the cafe back over to Colm. Thank you.
Thank you, Princess Shelley. Thank you, Eamonn. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you in particular, Grainne Adams. And one more time, for the last time on the show, we give you the coffee at 11 wave to say it's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure. Before I let you all go to the rest of your day, I want to invite you back in tomorrow to meet my special guest tomorrow, Sean Lally. Sean and I go way back, not quite as far back as myself and Grainne. Sean Lally and his lovely wife Elaine, they run Hotel Woodstock in Ennis, County Clare. And Sean, I was thinking earlier, Grainne, when you said you were principal at the ripe young age of 29, Sean at the ripe young age of 27 was general manager of the Imperial Hotel in Cork, and then came to Limerick, Royal George Hotel, Clarion Hotel, the Strand Hotel, and then out to Hotel Woodstock in Ennis. So really excited to catch up with Sean and hear what's been going on out there. I also wanted to say thank you. Thanks, Sean. I also want to say thank you to Carol Gibney, my older sister, for coming in. And Carol, I'm going to unmute you for a second. I want you just to say a quick hello. Carol Gibney, my older sister from Liverpool, Australia.
Hello, everybody. I just joined in because I couldn't resist today with Grainne, because Grainne and I have been best friends since I was 14. And that's about, 12 years ago. So anyway, I've been the best of friends ever since. She was my bridesmaid at my wedding. She's my son's godmother. And I couldn't resist. And well done, Grainne. And I love the fact that it was purely because of me that your life turned around. I love that. Thanks.
Carol, thanks very much indeed. Carol is one of my biggest. She's been very good to me over the years. We're Irish twins, by the way, 11 months between us. And just to let you know how close Grainne is to the O'Brien family, my mother was 80 there some years back, and Grainne was the only non-family member at the dinner. So that just brings it into perspective. Grainne, thanks for that. Carol, thanks for that. Shelley, Eamonn, Katrina, thanks for that. Sean Lally, looking forward to meeting you tomorrow. Everybody else, thanks for being here, and we'll talk to you soon. Folks, thanks. Have a great day.
Bye.